Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to episode 55 of the Knuckle Sammich podcast, the official MMA podcast of Sauce on the Side. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Drake, joined by the myth, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Thomas R. Shackelford.
I'm pretty mad. I cut my hair about a year ago. No, maybe not a year ago. Anyways, cut my hair. Avengers. I missed out on a really good Halloween costume. I could have been Fat Thor all day. I could have been that for the rest of Halloweens for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I would say about another year, and you'll be able to do that. So, really, just the most perfect time that you could have been Fat Thor is the only year that you can't be Fat Thor.
You know, next year when I can be Fat Thor, people are just gonna be like, "Man, you just look like shit."
Yeah.
You're the beast bum then.
Yeah.
And our producer, Mr. Late Pip Shaventone.
I don't like these Shackelford intros.
No,
it throws me off.
Dude, you know what's weird?
I'll do a normal one next.
That was the first time that I've messed up the man, the myth, the legend, and I totally believe that it was because I was just too excited to hear what Shackelford had to say today.
Or it's because now he's not a man anymore, he's just a myth. So you forget to say the man part.
We just have to say the myth.
Yep.
Mr. Shackelford.
Myth is probably more correct.
Dippers, as always, we will break down the UFC 237 card that is headlined by Rose Namajunas and Jessica Andrade. We will talk about Cowboys' dominant performance at UFC Fight Night last weekend. But before we do any of that, Latency, producer, you know what to do. Welcome to the Knuckle Sammich podcast with Thomas R. Shackelford, a Sauce on the Side production. All right, so Mr. Shackelford, first things first. So, you know how ESPN's taking their hand in the fight game now, obviously, because that's where all of the UFCs are on now.
Yes.
So the other day I was watching a basketball game and it was being announced. I cannot remember who was even announcing it, but you know how like in like a timeout break that they really don't have time to do like a TV timeout, so they just go ahead and they throw it straight to like a promotion for the this upcoming week or the next week.
Yeah.
One of the people called her, I think it was like Rose Namaha. They were like, looking forward to this weekend. We actually have Rose Namaha trying to defend her belt to Jessica Andrade. And then the next time that they ended up doing one of those, you know what they said?
What?
Thug Rose.
Yeah, they're like, we can't say that name. Just give us her nickname. Pathetic. There has been some other. Actually, this last weekend, who was calling the fights? It was Michael Bisping and
Stephen A. Smith.
No, it wasn't a normal guy. It was an ESPN guy, and he did know. There was one point where the guy was going around to his back and wasn't even really going for a choke. He was just getting behind the guy, and he goes, "He's going for an arm. He's going for an arm." And I kind of like, it took me a second. I go, "No, this guy just doesn't know what he's doing." So
Yeah.
The Stephen A. During the Conor and Khabib fight was actually kind of funny to me because Stephen A. You either love him or hate him. I'm actually one of the few people on the fence about him. I think he's an idiot in a lot of ways, but in other ways I think he's good.
Stephen A's good in small doses.
That UFC, I thought the reason why I liked him is because he was just like, he kind of like spoke on the aura of the building and stuff, but he was like, when it comes to the specifics, I'm going to pass it over to DC here because he knows more than I do. And that surprised me. And I was like, I've never heard this guy say anybody knows more than him. So, like, those guys, like, they could throw on Stephen A. or, some other guys. I'd like to see, what is his name, Berman?
Chris Berman?
Yeah, I would love to see Berman on any fight card.
No. This would be the perfect one to throw Berman on for Anderson Silva.
Yeah, he would be hysterical. I mean, there's some of those dudes that I would be like, just, I know they don't know anything, but cross them over just because I want to see them, But no, there's some the ESPN. They're kind of.
Dude, Berman.
You can tell those people haven't done any homework on the fight game.
Boomer calling the Anderson Silva fight would be the greatest thing ever because he does have like a solidified nickname, He'd be like, oh, whoop, whoop. Anderson, the Spider Silva. Oh, he could go all the way. Yeah. And then Jared Kinnear, rumbling, bumbling, stumbling. I would love that.
Yeah, I would absolutely have no bad things to say about that. None at all.
No, that's 10. That would be 10 out of 10.
As long as they.
Who do you think?
Go ahead.
Who do you think would win an MMA match of the ESPN like sports people?
What's
Chael Sonnen?
Some of them, I think.
They're all MMA fighters.
Stuart Scott, I know he passed away, but he trained MMA a lot, and like
he trained it all the way up to the day basically.
Yeah, Jay Glazer's another. I think Jay Glazer works for Fox, but he owns like. I forget the name of it. It's kind of a cheesy name.
Yeah, I've heard him talk about it before.
It's like Irons in the Fire MMA.
It's a fucking awesome name. There's really got in that shit.
It's one of those like really gnarly, goofy names, but some of them do train in it. And I wish, obviously, Stuart Scott's dead, so he can't do it. But guys like that actually train, they could easily just jump in. As long as they're not, I can't give them too much shit because like Rogan and those guys used to call a shot, like a wrestling shot, a shoot all the time.
A shoot?
Like, yeah, they'd be like, oh, that's a nice shoot there. Instead of being like, shoot. Oh, he had a good shoot. Oh, earlier he had a really nice shoot.
That sounds way more right than shot does.
No, it's shot.
No, it's a
shot. He took a shot.
But you're shooting at the guy with your body.
Well,
a shoot makes more sense than shot.
I don't know the specifics of it, but I know it's not shoot. I know I've never yelled, take a shoot!
I think, honestly, that might be why I have this weird... I didn't like Joe Rogan for the longest time whenever I was growing up, and I think that has to be why. Because whenever I first started watching MMA was probably the time that he was doing that. Yeah. And I thought that this guy had no idea what he was doing.
What's this dumbass
And I didn't like Rogan for a while, but like now I'm just... You can't get much better than Rogan.
Deep. You're in
deep. I have a deep love for that guy. So, Latency, you promised everybody this last week on the Mothership show that you were going to do a little complaining to Mr. Shackelford about Game of Thrones. So spill your juices because I have a big worry about this.
Yeah. Before we do this, I got to tell you about my new gym. Just fact that I learned this week. If you skip Monday physical gym is on Monday, right? You skip Monday, take the whole week off because I skipped Monday and then yesterday. So tonight is both back and chest, and it was awful. So skip one.
He doubled up. He was superset.
Yep. I haven't eaten since 11 a.m. I worked all day. So after we do this little thing, I'm gonna go make dinner. So if you hear any noises, it's me cooking food.
He's cooking up on his George Foreman standing grill in his living room.
No,
the best thing ever is that Latency has a standing George Foreman grill in his living room, right next to a shoe rack.
And actually, add chicken. I gotta cook. That's all pre-cut, whatever. I'm cook on the stove.
The best part about that George Foreman grill is that it looks like a grill, but it's a George Foreman. You can blatantly see it on there, and it's placed in a spot that's next to his door. So you just think, oh, Latency had his grill outside. He just brings it in whenever it's cold outside. Nope, he legitimately cooks on his grill.
It doesn't smoke.
Right inside his living room.
It's amazing. It's the best $70 ever spent.
I mean, there was a span of time where I bet you every house in America had a George Foreman.
They should all have one now. People are
I did get rid of mine because I like cooking. So
what do you mean that's not cooking?
No, that's like cheaters. What?
Whoa, hold on, wait. You just got rid of it. You like cooking. You're making a firm boycott on George Foreman's in your house.
I got like some real grown.
You won't just put it in storage somewhere. You just got rid of it.
No, I just got rid of it. And for the record, it wasn't actually a George Foreman. It was like a Hamilton Beach. It was a knockoff.
Okay. Anyway,
so what would be the George Foreman comparison? Like a knockoff of George Foreman. I got the Buster
Greg
Douglas.
Hardy.
Yes, I got the Greg Hardy.
The Greg Hardy.
Okay, anyway.
Let's hear it.
Before I start, what's your opinion on this season of Game of Thrones?
The first episode I thought felt right. The second episode, I liked it. I know most people's complaints, it was dark. I felt like the darkness added to the creepiness, the demeanor of the episode. Again, I didn't mind it, but if I'm a person that's been watching from day one 7 years ago, I probably do have a problem with that they killed the Unstoppable Army in one episode.
3, not episode 2.
Or 3. I thought that was episode 2.
No. Episode 1
Was where they were all
John
together.
and Daenerys just got Winterfell. Episode 2, when they were preparing.
Okay, I forgot about that. Yeah, so I felt like they all felt good. I don't care about them killing the Ice King. I thought that was cool. The way they did it. I thought was cool. This episode felt a little weird. We talked about how
this is the best one of the season.
You thought this episode was the best?
Yes.
Here's my thing with it. It basically jumps weeks and weeks and weeks and months and months and months in a span.
Oh no, I do have
time
problems with it.
No time at all. And there's no aging, there's no nothing. Just 1 minute they're all in the north doing good. Next minute they're flying over the boat army.
Yeah.
Wait a second here, though. Latency, I don't see how you can say this is the best episode because you did not complain about this show until this week.
Because it's all now just rolled up so much. And
it felt like this episode
me too much
probably
about
should have been like 4 hours long. Or maybe this was like a 10. I just hope I can deal with it. Okay, they were traveling. The big war's over. They're going down to fight Cersei. This is travel time, but you gotta think there was some storyline because the first 30 minutes of the episode they're talking about, Jon Snow this, that, and they're like doing all this scheming, and then you mean to tell me that they travel from the north, the furthest north except for the north, all the way down to King's Landing.
Yeah, no, I have problems with this.
There's no dialogue whatsoever. No dialogue.
No, I still have problems with it. I still have a problem with that a lot.
Okay, so the first episodes I would give A's. This one was a C minus for me.
Season overall.
I mean, you gotta average that out to a B plus.
Okay, I think this is like the second or third worst season of the show. Because
no, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I've watched it from like season 2, so almost day 1, not day 1. They set up 6 seasons of 10 episodes. Last season had 8, this one had 6. As soon as they said it had 6 episodes, I knew we were fucked. Because they spent 6 years setting up 2 wars.
Yeah.
And one they did in 1 episode with the most unsatisfying payoff to.
I won't. Go ahead.
It was unsatisfying payoff I could have imagined happening because there was just so much more they could have done with that. Then they set up the next one in a really, really good way that I loved. Not to spoil anything specific, you haven't watched the episode this week yet. They set up the next one really, really well, and this one's going to be one of episode 2.
Yeah.
Meanwhile...
We're coming up on episode 4.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we only got...
This is episode 5.
Oh, yeah. So
I've been about pacing this whole time here. So now, they're going to have this war in 1 episode.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Jon has a claim to that and thrown above Daenerys. So they got that up in 1 episode 6. So, what could easily be 10 episodes long and really, really good, they decided they didn't want to write fan fiction for a fan fiction show already. And said, okay, we're going to be 6 episodes. 4 are going to be 80 minutes long, so you'll be okay with that. But no, we're not when when the thing's all this huge and you've waited 7 years for. This is not what you want to have happen.
Yeah, I did feel like they opened up a can of worms by him telling the secret to his sisters, and then they're opening up another. I can't think of the word for it. They're
another storyline that they don't have time to finish.
Yes, when we're trying to close out.
They're writing checks they can't cash.
I mean, they're gonna cash him. They're gonna cash him. I do think that there will be some spin-offs. Obviously, every show except for maybe save Seinfeld has had spin-offs.
There are going to be 2 spin-offs right now planned.
So they're already planning them.
One's about the First Men. The other one, I think, is about when the Targaryens first took over.
Okay.
So what's the point of a final season?
Well, this is going to be the final of this storyline. It's like Harry Potter. I mean,
there won't be anything past this ever.
Stuff of the Harry Potter universe till the end of time, just because they know people will watch it. I do agree. You know, maybe they, much like Harry Potter, that like. I think J.K. Rowling really enjoys a lot of the fan fiction that comes in and out. I'm not saying she uses some of her stuff, and
she's adding shit to it now still. Which is
so. Overall, I will agree with you that on the whole, this season has been my least favorite one, but it's not bad still. But if you look at like the arc of movies and TV series, almost no. I'm going to use this as an example. Weeds. I'll just be real quick. Weeds was a really, really good show for maybe the first 2.5 seasons, and it just fell off its rocker. Now that same writer, I think his name is Benji Cohen, maybe, he writes for Orange is the New Black. You remember how popular that was for the first 2 seasons, and again, just fell off. I mean,
I think it's good again.
If you don't
though.
have books or other movies to have that material, you better close it up within like 2-3 seasons, because it just. I mean, I keep going back to Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld did the greatest thing on earth. They were at their peak. They were the biggest freaking show of all time, and he just said, "We're done." And there's a reason for that. There's an absolute reason for that, because anything after is either going to be pulling. You know, you're going to have to keep actors and actresses. You know, you got to keep George Kramer and Elaine happy.
And Newman.
Yeah, you know, really, it's guys like Newman. It's like those niche characters that you only see once every 5 episodes, but everybody freaking loves Newman. I mean, think about it. You were like 2 years old when the show was on, and you freaking know Newman. Those are the dudes that are usually like, I'll take another $10 million an episode. So they've done a lot of good things. I'm still going to be happy with the season. I feel like I'm going to be happy this season. But again, I only started watching a year ago. If you're 7 years into the game, I could totally see where you're like, what in the hell did I sit around 7 years for?
So I'm going to put it to you this way. Well, you're waiting a week for? Imagine waiting 2 years for that, okay?
Yeah.
Season 7 8 were 2 years apart. I waited 2 fucking years for this.
The only reason I started watching is when I got this new job, these people are all talking about the show, which I'd heard of it. My buddy Chucky was into it, but he's into a bunch of those True Bloods. Like, he tells me a new series I should watch every week. I just ain't got time for it. But when they started watching them, they gave me the DVDs. I started watching them, and I'm like, oh, cool, how many seasons are there? They tell me, and they're like, and actually the new season's coming out in April of next year. And I was like, oh, I only got to wait like 8 months, no problem. Like, yeah, that'll give me time to watch these. So this is another thing that I do. Most series I do not watch until they're long over. Breaking Bad, never seen it. Sopranos, never seen it. Another one of my favorite series, Entourage.
Eastbound and Down is the greatest of all time.
Exactly. I didn't watch Eastbound and Down until I found all the seasons on DVD at a yard sale. I watched them all, and I messaged Drake, and I was like, hey, Eastbound and Down is one of the greatest shows ever.
It's good. We watched the entire 3rd season in one night.
We watched an entire season in one night.
Even Danny McBride, he even said he never wrote that past one season. He was like, it was a one.
No, the first season is definitely the best.
He was like, one and done. He's like, and then they wanted another one. He's like, okay, but he knew that there was an easy stamp on it. Like, this is bam, gonna be over, and he should have stuck with that. They're all funny as hell, though. So
oh no,
I'm glad he did.
He should not have stuck with that. He needs more. I want like 10 more seasons of Kenny Powers.
You want him until we're doing an episode where you're like, I can't handle this no more.
Go out on top, baby. Barry Sanders wrote the book on it.
Exactly. Seinfeld really did it the best. There's a few more. Entourage probably stayed a season or 2 past it should have. They wrapped it up well, and hell, they even did a movie, Sex and the City. I can name like 15 really, really good TV shows that 4, 5, 6, 7 years in, it's just...
Where does Will and Grace fall in on this?
I never saw Will and Grace.
Me either.
One Tree Hill's up there.
I've also never
Have you
seen
finished One Tree Hill?
Oh, yeah. One Tree Hill is so good, man.
The only thing I know about One Tree Hill is me and my daughter like to watch a movie called Pixels. Have you seen it with Adam Sandler? It's one of his newer ones.
So it sucks?
It's funny. It's funny as hell. It's about old 80s video games. But there's a part where a guy's watching a sexy girl fight scene between two girls on One Tree Hill, and then like bikinis fighting, and I was like, after I found out you love that show, and I watched Pixels again, I was like, Leighton's this guy watching One Tree Hill on VHS in his grandma's basement.
He loves One Tree Hill.
It's a great show. But they also should have started after season 6 though,
See,
because then people left the show. As soon as the people leave the show, you can't end it right there.
Yeah, that is one thing.
You can't carry that shit on for 3 more years.
Really well is they kept all their. There is a couple people that they switched in and out. What's his name? He slept with Daenerys for a couple. It was really. You remember the sand guy? Like he was.
Yeah, I don't know his fucking name.
But overall, they've kept all the major actors. Even Harry Potter couldn't do that, and that's one of the biggest franchises ever.
So overall,
well, the one dude died during Harry Potter. So
well, yeah, but then the two bullies, like one of those bully dudes, ended up going to jail in England. I don't know if he murdered someone. He's not a good dude.
Hey, watched that 70s show?
What about it?
They changed
the sister.
What's Mila Kunis's mom's name on the show? Jackie. They changed her mom out from some like mom-looking girl to a smoke show.
I don't remember there, but Eric's sister changes pretty significantly.
Yeah, she was
at one point too.
Not the same at all.
So with this series being, or this, I guess season being kind of a lot to be left desired, would you still tell people that this is a must-watch, Leighton?
Oh yeah, it's the best show ever.
You just say, don't watch it if you want the very last season. For a lot of people, I bet this last season kills it.
Oh, I guarantee it.
It's still the best show ever.
Because it's supposed to set it all up for this, and now it's just like, well, here it is.
Yeah. There's been other really big shows that Dallas show back in the day where I've never seen it, but it was a really popular show. And then in the end, I guess the guy's like standing in the shower and like the whole entire show is just a dream. He just like wakes up from a dream and the entire series was nothing but a dream. The whole entire show.
That sucks.
I never saw the end of The Sopranos, but I know I haven't seen it.
I think it just cuts to black.
Yeah. That was supposedly a really bad one.
I guess. Probably up to you, but Jackie's mom. Could they go in the middle with his mom like season 1? The rest are every other season.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I can see where they changed that. All right, Mr. Shackelford. So let's go ahead and break down some fights here. I guess Leighton C is going to go make him some dinner, hopefully in the George Foreman grill, because I want to see him grill in his living room.
Wow, dude.
So this last weekend, UFC Fight Night, headlined by Cowboy Cerrone and Al Aquenta. Cowboy puts on one of his most dominant performances, kind of an all-time performance by Cowboy Cerrone. You would actually pick Cowboy to win. So, Mr. Shackelford, what did you see in this fight that made Cowboy successful?
He looks, again, it was what we talked about was the range. He was going to control the range. I thought he was going to do it from the clinch a little bit more. I don't think they clinched at all. I mean, really at all. He pretty much, after the first round was close. But after that, I mean, he just slowly pecked away. His jab looked good. His leg kicks looked really good. The other thing, his movement. I don't know if you noticed, his movement's gotten a lot better. He's not quite there to be hit as much as he used to.
Oh yeah, he used to just stand and trade.
I think he's on the BMF ranch. He doesn't go to Jackson's anymore, and he's got guys tailored just to him. But I think the biggest addition for him is that Joe Schilling. I've told you a little bit about him before. He's really one of America's best kickboxers. And when he was in the corner with Cowboy, he was giving him really, really precise instructions like, hey, that hook is going to be there. They called out a combo, and it was a combo where that Cowboy kind of does that lead, almost like a half jab, half uppercut type thing, and that was the first punch that rocked. Iaquinta, and after that, I mean, it was just downhill. He late in the fourth, he like hits a little teep kick up to Al's chin, just barely touches him.
That became a meme.
And then he hits another
GIF.
one immediately after him and drops him. Just a really great fight, man. His stand up has legitimately. I just don't know how he just keeps getting better. His stand-up game, I mean, his overall fight game, you got to think you can always improve on that, but specifically his stand-up is so much more crisp now. Really amazing. Just a really, really, really great performance. He did get hit a couple times, wobbled a couple times, but I mean, nothing that stopped the constant flow of pressure that he was putting on Al.
Right. Now that he's come to middleweight, he has 2 straight wins at middleweight, 3 straight wins overall.
You mean lightweight?
Lightweight, yes. What do you think is next for Cowboy?
I think there's only 2 fights I would take if I was him. That would either be obviously McGregor. McGregor's got a little bit of law stuff over there that he needs to deal with, I think. Also, I told you this last week, he just, I think Proper 12 just struck $1 billion, just made $1 billion globally. So if he comes back, I would say McGregor and then Tony Ferguson. And the reason those 2 guys is because they're the next, whoever wins in a fight between those guys will be the next in line for a title.
I absolutely agree there. So with the Cowboy and McGregor fight, I've said it before. Do you think that would be the highest selling fight in MMA history?
I think so. I think so, because I think Conor and Khabib was the biggest.
I think this kills it.
And Cowboy's a much bigger fan favorite than Khabib. So
I agree.
Yeah, they could put that on the headline of any card over any title fight, and people will bitch, but people's gonna bitch no matter what. It would be nuts.
No, I absolutely agree. So running down this card, I think we only went 2-2, but you told people not to bet.
We went 3-2.
Okay, so we went 3-2. Yeah, we did go 3-2. But you did tell people not to bet it, and you still had a dog winner. So out of this card, outside of Cowboy Cerrone, because I think Cowboy is the heads and shoulders biggest winner of this night, who do you think was the biggest winner outside of Cowboy Cerrone?
That Macy Chiasson, which we didn't break her fight down on the show, but then I kind of highlighted her on the little media thing I put out. She is a female fighter at, I believe, 145 pounds. She's tough, man. That's I think her 3rd fight in the UFC, 3 stoppages. She fights at 145, which we know Amanda Nunes is the champ now. Basically, Cyborg cleaned it out. But she has had, I believe, 3 fights in the UFC, 1 submission and 2 TKOs. She is brutal, man. She is absolutely brutal. I love watching her fight. As soon as I didn't even see her on the card last week, or I would have brought her name up. And then when I was going through the pick'ems, my little pick'em sheet, I saw her name, and I was like, oh, hell yeah, that girl's fighting again. Definitely keep an eye out for her. Everybody else, the card was solid. Brunson and Theodorou had a boring fight. That Theodorou, he'll throw like 50 punches in the air, just 5 feet from the guy, and then he'll move in with a punch, and then he'll do a couple spins, and then he'll run away. I've seen him win like 5 fights like that, so I don't know. Brunson maybe landed like 2 punches the whole fight. I don't know, and then he got 2 takedowns. So I don't know how you score those fights. That's when we lost. Burgos beat Swanson. Pretty good fight. The big one, that Brad Katona off the Ultimate Fighter winner, he lost to that Merab. It was kind of pathetic. He didn't stop a single takedown. It wasn't even a fight. Merab just did every single thing he wanted to do the whole entire time.
Yeah, Merab landed 78% of his 274 punches or strikes.
How many did Katona even throw?
70.
Yeah, that's about what it looked like.
Yeah, no, it was an abysmal fight. Biggest loser of the night, Cub Swanson or Brad Katona?
I'll say Katona. Cub actually.
Cub at least fought.
He looked really good.
I thought so,
that guy
too.
was 5'11". He's young. He hits hard, and Cub hung in there with him the whole time. I mean, it was a close fight. I think it ended up being a split decision. One judge gave it 30-27 to Cub. Had Cub winning all three rounds somehow. But I mean, it should have been a unanimous for Burgos, but Cub was in it the whole time.
Yes, I absolutely agree there. So we'll go ahead and pick some winners. You said that there's only 3 fights that you feel very, very comfortable picking and giving us a winner. So we'll go ahead and start off with the headliner. Should I call her Rose Namaha?
Yeah, ESPN, Rose Namaha the Tomahawk.
Yeah. Rose the Tomahawk.
That's what I thought when you said that. I was like, oh man, they're going full Indian on her now.
So Rose Namajunas. She is actually an underdog despite holding the belt to Jessica Andrade. Rose Namajunas is a even odds underdog. Jessica Andrade is a minus 130 favorite. Mr. Shackelford, who's winning this fight?
It's weird. I'm gonna go Rose.
I agree.
I think Andrade is an absolute killer. That's for sure. If you look at her record. If you look up her fight, I think she's only lost to Marion Renaud, who's a really big, like 35-pounder. Raquel Pennington. So she's fighting people, 2 weight classes above her, probably just to get fights in the early days. She's tough. She does throw huge bombs, almost like a little Vanderlei Silva style striking. Throws bricks in her hands, and she's a pretty solid grappler. So by no means is this an easy fight for Rose, but I see Rose being a very solid striker. I think she'll be able to move in and out enough to stay away from those big bombs, and she's actually a really good grappler. So I don't see her just getting taken down and laid on like some of Andrade's other fights. Which that's probably not fair to say because she throws bombs on the ground too. So as long as Namajunas can be on her bike and not get held underneath her, I think she gets a pretty win here.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. I'm surprised that she's an underdog.
I am a little bit too.
Especially with how dominant she's looked in her
wonder
last
if it's
fights.
because some of her losses have been to like wrestling style female fighter. Carla Esparza just took her down and subbed her. So she has had trouble. Her losses have basically come from the grappling department of fights. So, I mean, it's fair to say that Andrade is like a big bull. I mean, if she... I'm sorry, our producer is about to burn down the house with his George Foreman. It's making me cough.
It smells like something's burning, and I see a coat hanging right above it.
It's not smoking, but it's letting out a pungent odor that's making me cough. Andrade, she out-wrestled Tisha Torres. She out-wrestled Claudia Gadea. She's a very good grappler. So, I mean, this fight could go, hey, she takes her down, beats her up. It could go one-punch KO. But I just think Rose... I think she's in and out enough to where it's not going to catch up to her. Maybe she's an underdog because she's been out so long. She hasn't fought. And you remember she was saying she had like a little bit of PTSD from the Connor bus attack type thing and a little weirdness there. Well, she's had some like emotional, psychological hiccups in the past in some of her fights. So, but I'm not going to factor that into my... I can't factor that into my pick.
No, I agree. I think Rose should be a clear-cut favorite in this fight. I'm not saying a substantial favorite, but she should be the favorite.
That's a pretty good bet. I mean, I feel like Vegas has got that wrong.
No, I definitely agree. And whenever you usually say that the odds are wrong, they usually are wrong.
Yeah.
And because sometimes you pick a dog and you say, well, this is the route that I think the fight's going to go. This you just flat out think they're wrong. Yeah. So I agree with that. Next fight, we have Jose Aldo. He is a minus 140 favorite to Alex Volkanovski, who's a plus 110 dog. These odds are pretty close whenever you look at the history for Jose Aldo. But Mr. Shackelford, who do we like in this fight?
You know what? He's done us good as a dog once. I'm going to go Volkanovski again.
Oh, wow.
He was a dog against Mendez, you remember? and he TKO'd him. That was another one that I was like, this is a gigantic flaw here in Vegas. Volkanovski, man, 19-1. His first fight's way back in the day. I think he was the dude that was maybe a hockey player or a high-level rugby player, I think it was. Super tough, very, very good all around. He almost reminds me a little bit of a Jose Aldo early in his career. Just straightforward. You're not going to hurt him, and he's going to crumple you with every shot type guy. This is going to be... I'm very excited for this fight, but I am going to go Volkanovski to take out the old lion.
Wow. I actually like that. I do. So I was trying to run through the history of Jose Aldo and when betting odds have been this close with him. And it's not much. Outside of the Max Holloway fights, obviously, Jeremy Stevens was a pretty close pick, and then Moicano, Conor McGregor, and then other than that, every single one of his fights, I think, leading all the way back to whenever he fought Mike Brown, the odds have been bigger than this. So that's just something to look out for with this fight. So, Mr. Shackelford, maybe the biggest name on the card, probably the biggest name on the card if you look at just the history of the UFC, Anderson Silva, coming in with a 1-5-1 record in his last 7 fights, takes on Jared Cannonier. Silva is a plus 110 dog to Cannonier's minus 140 favorite. Mr. Shackelford, who do we like?
I guess I'm going to go Silva. We're going to go all dogs. We're going to do 3 dogs. 3 dogs. Anderson looked good in his last fight against Adesanya. He beat up Derek Brunson. Think about his loss to Cormier. Cormier kind of just took him down and laid on him. Bisping,
he actually touched Cormier up.
He did. You remember he hit Cormier with a belly kick, and Cormier said it about killed him. He's lost to Michael Bisping. Don't know if you watched the fight. A lot of people think he won that. He basically stopped Bisping in the 3rd round, but the bell rang, and for some reason the ref broke him up, they stopped him. So Anderson went and jumped up on the cage, thought he won. Diaz, he won. The last loss he had was that Chris Weinman, that KO to punches, because I'm not counting the leg break. So you're talking, that was in 2013. All his losses, aside from just the Daniel Cormier just taking him down, laying on him, they've been either close fights or fights that he should have won. So I'm going, we're going Anderson. They're in Brazil. I don't see him losing to Cannonier in Brazil.
You know that this is only the 3rd time. This goes all the way back to 2007, whenever he fought Nate Marquardt. This is only the 3rd time that Anderson Silva has been an underdog.
Let me see if I can guess the next ones. Was it to Weidman the 2nd time?
No, he's actually favored.
He was?
Yes, he was.
What about Adesanya? I feel like he had to be
Adesanya was one.
What was the other one? I just ran down.
It's pretty obvious. You talked about one of them already.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
Cormier? Okay. Well, he took that on 10 hours notice, so.
Yeah, understandable. But yeah, this is his second biggest dog. No, 3rd. It's his 3rd biggest one.
3rd.
But yeah, I like that pick. I do. I don't know why, because Anderson Silva has to hang around here, right? And at least make it interesting. I don't think he's going to get hit enough to actually get put down.
That's the thing. Cannonier is a big puncher. He fought at heavyweight, but I don't know that he's going to be able to hit Anderson. I mean, Adesanya didn't even really hit Anderson that much.
No.
Actually, Anderson really made it dirtier and hit Adesanya quite a bit. So, should be a fun fight. There's a bunch of fights on this card that look fun. There's just not enough. I mean, you'll know one guy's name and then you've never heard of the other guys.
That's exactly how the card was. Whenever I was looking through it, I'm like, I know this guy, and I'm like, well, who the hell's he fighting? Or I know this name, and who the hell's she fighting?
Yeah.
Except for there was one fight where I'm like, oh, both these guys are ultimate legends. Clay Guida, BJ Penn. BJ Penn is on a 6-fight losing streak. He is 1-8-1 in his last 10 fights. Clay Guida is a minus 600 favorite. Mr. Shackelford, this is a celebrity shot. Give us the pick.
BJ Penn.
You like BJ Penn?
With the 600, you might as well put $2 on him. I don't
He's
know.
400, but still.
This fight's so weird. I mean, Clay Guida had that really great performance his last one, and then he's like begging the UFC, like, hey, I want to end my career here. You guys haven't negotiated at all to re-sign me. I would love to fight on that Chicago card. So instead of giving him the Chicago card, which I think is just in a couple weeks, they send him to Brazil to fight freaking BJ Penn, 2 people from the bottom.
Yeah, I love that.
Such a weird fight.
Such a weird fight.
No, I don't know who's going to win. You're either going to get Guida just doing his taking down, bam, bam, punches for 15 minutes, or maybe BJ hits him with a knee or a real quick guillotine or something. I'm not sure.
You have one guy in this fight that I feel like is a legend that's past his prime, who has still been fighting at a pretty high level. I mean, everybody forgets. We're an 8-second knee in the 3rd round, 8 seconds away from him beating Brian Ortega.
Yeah, you're right.
And that was just like a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't see where the matchmakers thought that this would be a good idea.
I feel like BJ has him on a short. He's like, hey, man, I want to fight. Hey, man, give me a fight. And they're like, who the hell are we going to put you up against, man? You've lost like 16 in a row. Call Clay Guida. He's not doing anything.
You know Clay Guida's not going to turn it down.
No. I saw an interview and they asked Clay Guida, and they're like, what does this do for you? Like, a lot of people are calling for his retirement. Why would you take this? He goes, that's not my call. It's like they call me, say I want to fight the legend BJ Penn. I say yes. That's the end of it for me. Like, I don't think anything about it. They send me somebody's name. I say yes. End of story. That's the way I've always been.
No, I agree with that. Which that's the way he has been. He was basically cowboy before cowboy. But if we're looking something dead in the eyes here, Mr. Shackelford, if we can get a BJ Penn loss, he has officially only won half of his MMA fights.
Oh, God.
We're at that point.
You know, he's in trouble right now, too. Apparently, he got into a fight with his wife and threatened some farmer in Hawaii with a machete.
Did he really?
Yeah. I didn't even know he was fighting. I just thought he was in trouble.
Wow. That's crazy.
He's had a rough time. It's amazing, some of these dudes, you see it in professional sports all the time. I don't know why I thought it was going to be any different. A lot of these guys are having a lot of trouble post-career.
Oh, whoa. Post-career. He's fighting Clay Guida this weekend. He's still right.
I'll stand by my words.
Hey, he's
looking by my words.
He's looking his prime right in the eyes right now.
He retired after Nick Diaz fought. You know, think of that fight. You remember the Nick Diaz and him fight?
Oh, yeah.
He was beating up Nick Diaz in the first round, and then he got tired, and then he took a beating for 2 more rounds. But he was like right there with prime Nick Diaz, and he's just can't get a win to save his life.
Yeah, no, they actually got fight of the night.
That was an amazing fight.
So just looking down the card, you have Warley Alves, Thiago Alves, Thiago Moises, Little Nog. Is it Little Nog?
Yeah.
Little
Nog's still doing the damn thing.
Beth Correa. Oh, Beth Correa, underdog.
I don't know anything about the person she's fighting. As
That's always a
far
good
as I
sign.
know, she hasn't fought in a long time either. So
I think it's only like a year and a half.
see, I thought she was retired.
No, she had fought recently.
I can't get on her hype train, man. When she fought Ronda Rousey, she was talking so much trash and like telling Rousey she was going to kill her, and that's the one Rousey KO'd her with her hands, just flat KO'd her. And we know Rousey's hands weren't the greatest, so it was tough for me to really get behind her much.
Yeah, a year and a half ago, she took Holly Holm to the 3rd round.
That's not bad.
That's not too bad. Any names that people need to be looking out for on this card that just absolutely jump off the page for you?
Honest to God, no. That, you know, Warley Alves is a guy, or no, Thiago Moises, I think, is a guy that a lot of people should watch. If he's the guy. No, he lost to Beneil Dariush. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to me.
maybe it's the mix of both. Thiago Alves.
Maybe, yeah. Look out for Thiago Alves. I hear he's a big up and comer. Just have fun with these fights. To not sound like a dick, just have fun watching the fights. They're gonna be in Brazil. You know the crowd's gonna be yelling. You know you're gonna die. I forget the saying in Portuguese, but it's usually when they're yelling as a crowd, it's "you're gonna die," which they always yell at foreigners. Super nationalistic. But it's almost all Brazilians on the card. It's going to be a nuts card to watch.
I actually have a story. I think I've told you this before. I have a buddy that I used to wrestle with who fought over in Brazil. He was actually on the Ultimate Fighter the year that Bisping and Dan Henderson were the coaches. And he said that he took a fight within a week's notice in Brazil. Went there, got knocked out cold, and this guy he was a good fighter. Got knocked out cold, ends up waking up in the back of an ambulance, and as soon as he woke up in the back of the ambulance, they dropped him off with nothing but his fight shorts. He had his fight shorts on, and they just dropped him off, and he couldn't speak like Spanish or anything, so he just walked around and was just like, you know, he was in that haze that you still are after you get knocked out. As soon as he woke up, they dumped him off. And he just walked around Brazil until he found somebody that could speak English and he could find where his hotel was.
I don't doubt it. You know,
that's the truth.
One of the early UFCs was in Brazil. It basically was a riot at the end, and they had to, like, the production crew and everything just like took off. That ring got left. Like, they never broke down the ring. That octagon stayed there. And
the one that got away.
Well, no, another promotion just painted over it and used it. Like,
that is awesome.
I forget the name of it. Paul Varlin's an old UFC guy, fought in it. But I was watching, I think it was one of his old fights with, like, Oleg Taktarov or something. And it was that UFC ring that had, like, It may have been a light spray paint coating on it, and like you could still see the bald UFC guy, and I was like, "That's the UFC ring that had to leave in Brazil."
That's awesome.
It was a long time from the time they went to Brazil to the next time because of that.
That is crazy.
Absolutely. I know America's got a lot of problems, but until you hear, I don't even have to go to a country like that and experience it. I can just read about it and be perfectly fine. But
I feel like this is the card. They just tried to pull as many guys together who beat Matt Hughes that are still fighting.
That's not nice.
But it's true. I mean, Thiago Alves, BJ Penn. Here we are in 2019 with two guys on the same card who beat Matt Hughes.
Yeah, we just need to get GSP back in the mix, and we'll have all his losses. Or Dennis Howman. We need to get Dennis Howman in the mix, and all his losses will be on there.
So any news and notes that we need to hit before we wrap this show up?
We talked about the Beat the Streets. Ben Askren versus Jordan Burroughs. Askren got teched.
He got whooped.
One thing that cracks me up on Twitter, I've seen a lot of people, and this actually, I'm one of those guys, I have a bunch of words that piss me off, like really, or what's some of the other
Is it
ones?
really followed by a question mark?
Yes. Like, I just have a list of these words and phrases that get on my nerves just instantaneously. And the new one for me is, there's levels to this. Whenever I see people on Twitter who there was people who never wrestled in college. There were some good college wrestlers. There were some guys that are currently like trying to get on the U.S. World Team, and they're putting on Twitter like, there's levels of this. Askren's a joke. I'm like, the dude hasn't wrestled a freestyle match in 10 years.
Yes.
They called him on 2 weeks' notice, said, do you want to wrestle a prime of one of the greatest American wrestlers we've ever had? And he just said, yeah. He said, yeah, I'll go do it.
Ben Askren knew what would happen.
Yes.
He even reached out to Jordan Burroughs and said, just shoot a single leg.
Yeah. He went in there knowing that if he won, it would be a miracle. But it wasn't going to stop him from doing the challenge. Whereas those people, when they say, oh, there's levels of this, For one, they've never been at the level Ben Askren ever was. He was an Olympian. He won the U.S. Open. He won the trials. 2-time NCAA champ. I think he was a 2-time Hodge winner.
I think he won the Hodge Award twice, yes.
He basically did every single thing you can do except gold medal at the Olympics. And these people are still saying, oh, there's levels of this. Get out, you douche. I want to be like Jay and Silent Bob and get all their addresses and travel to each one of their houses and punch them in the face. Be like, did you tell Ben Askren that he wasn't... There's levels to wrestling when you never wrestled past middle school. Here's a punch to the face.
I think that might honestly be the only time somebody's been called a douche on any podcast we've done.
I think so.
Thomas once again breaking new ground.
Yeah.
You never called anybody a D-bag?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I had to absolutely shut my phone off and put it down because I was just ready to just go on random people's Twitter and just be like, you're a douche. And just bam, 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 just lighting them up over and over.
4-time All-American. 91 pins at the college level, which is third all-time. A 153-8 record. But
Jesus.
Yet, people are still telling him that there's levels to this.
2008 Olympian, U.S. Open winner, trials winner.
I love that.
There's levels, baby.
There's just levels.
There's levels.
There's levels.
Not that, yeah, he's already been on that level and he hasn't wrestled that level in 10 years, but he had bigger nutsack than all you guys. Pissed me off.
He won the United States Championships in 2008. That was 11 years ago. Like,
I listened to
did this guy not get a celebrity shot? That's like coming out and saying, like, oh, Anderson Silva lost this weekend to Jared Cannonier.
There's levels to this.
There's levels to this.
No, it was ridiculous, man. And I'm looking up these people. Like, I'll look at him. I'll be like, what's this guy done? Okay, he's he just graduated from college. He was never an NCAA champ. He's trying to get a spot in the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
Ben Askren never had to try to get a spot in the U.S. Open. They were begging him to wrestle in the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
Insane. Pissed me off.
No,
People
I
pissed
agree.
me off.
So any other news and notes? Anybody else that you have to call a douche?
No.
That's it?
No. That's
all
all
right.
I got. That's all I got this week.
All right. And on that note, for Drake, for Leighton C., and always Mr. Shackelford, as always, Dippers, stay saucy.